Vandergelder.
Good day.
And don't forget 7:30 Harmonia Gardens, and be sure to rent some evening clothes. She's very fussy.
Dolly Levi, you are a damned exasperating woman.
Why, Horace Vandergelder, that is the nicest thing you have ever said to me.
Such a fun movie. It was a huge hit on Broadway back in 1964, and a few years later, the story of New York-based matchmaker Dolly Levi came to the big screen, starring the one and only Barbra Streisand. The film was nominated for 7 Oscars, including Best Picture, and took home 3. The beloved musical was directed by the legendary Gene Kelly, and as of today, you can pick up a copy on Blu-ray. Joining us live from Los Angeles this morning with more is Kelly's widow, biographer and film historian Patricia Ward Kelly. Patricia, thanks for joining us this morning.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, before we get to Hello, Dolly, and we will talk a lot about that, I have to tell you, Singin' in the Rain, my mom, all growing up, told me it was the best movie ever. For some reason, I never saw it until a few years ago. Fell in love with it in the first couple of minutes. Such a great movie. For people who have never seen it, we have some younger viewers out there. Why should they check that one out?
Well, I think I was on the road for the 60th anniversary of it last year with the great actor Rita Moreno, and she summed it up in one word. She said it's a perfect musical, and I think in many ways it is. And I think the thing is that it's certainly a period piece, but it's very contemporary, and the dance, I think, is very current, and it's what young people are looking to today. It still holds up 60 years later, just like Hello, Dolly is holding up 44 years later.
Definitely. And Gene Kelly, of course, directed that. He was an actor, a dancer, a singer, so multi-talented, choreographer. Did he ever talk to you about what he liked best, or did he really just like to do all of it?
No, that's a very good question. He actually wanted to be remembered for being behind the camera. He wanted to be known as a creator and preferred to be directing and choreographing. And he really didn't care about being in front of the camera, but for some funny reason, MGM kind of liked to have him out there in front of that. But he wanted to be known. He wanted to see how you could capture dance with this one-eyed monster, the camera, and that was the big challenge that he wanted to crack, and I think he did that superbly.
Oh, yes, he did, definitely. Well, let's talk about Barbra Streisand. Of course, she plays Dolly Levi. This was really only her second movie. Before that, she had done Funny Girl. How did this movie, Hello, Dolly, really make everyone know, oh, she's not going anywhere. She's here to stay?
Well, you're right. With Funny Girl coming out just right before this, she was an overnight sensation and really kind of took the world by storm. But the funny thing is that when she came onto this picture, the very first day, she was extremely lacking in confidence because she felt she was wrong for the part. And so Gene had this megastar who suddenly didn't want to be there, and he also had the same thing with Walter Matthau, who didn't want to be there. And so he had a bit of a challenge with that. But Gene had great respect, obviously, for both players, but he had great respect for Barbra Streisand, and I think in many ways related to her because she often gets this description of difficult and a perfectionist, and Gene said she knew what she wanted, and she was very, very smart about it, and he really respected that in her.
Well, Gene Kelly was a perfectionist as well, right?
He was, and I think I like to use the word professional because he always thought it was funny that perfectionism had become kind of a derogatory phrase. He said, you know, when you go to the surgeon, do you ask for the sloppy guy? And
right.
I think that the reason we're watching things like Singin' in the Rain 60 years later and this movie is because of that precision and that attention to detail. You don't just say, oh, that's good enough. You do it until it's right, and you get these consummate pros. You get the best cinematographers, the best lighting, the best Irene Sheriff, the costumes, the best editing, and that's why these things hold up. I think that's why you have classic films.
I agree with you. What do you think Gene loved most about Hello, Dolly?
One of the questions I asked him, it was funny, I said, are there any funny stories about shooting Hello, Dolly? And he said there was nothing funny about it. It was just very, very, very difficult, and I think finishing it was probably one of his favorite things about it. And I think one thing he really liked was he shot the numbers, he staged the numbers. It only takes a moment, and Ribbons Down My Back, and obviously the big parade scene. He thought the parade scene was extraordinary. story. And when we ran it one night, he said, this has got to be the best part of it. And it was shot, it started with 8 cameras and 12,000 extras. It was shot in 3 days. And then they would just cut the number of cameras and the number of extras and the number of elephants and everything each day until you come down to the principals. He said it's one of the great old classic things of filmmaking. But the funny story with It Only Takes a Moment is that the producers didn't want Michael Crawford to sing. They didn't think he had any good voice, and Gene insisted, and look what happened to Michael Crawford's career.
Yeah, no kidding, fan of the opera. Well, thank you so much. It is available on DVD today, and you're writing a book about Gene Kelly, so people can look for that as well. Best of luck with the release of this. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.